Hello and welcome to another Pauper video. Today, the outcome is a little bit spoiled because we know from the title that we got the 5-0, 10-0, but it's going to be pretty sweet to see it happen. This is going to be a video of my league replays where I'm going to step through it. So if you're the kind of person that likes to watch it on 2x speed, you might want to tone that down. It's going to be a little bit speedier this time. So if you're not familiar with the deck, this is the Turbo Everything Big Red somewhat deck that Rubens Nito had created. And I made a couple of tweaks. I went to 15 lands. You can see that I'm testing a 1 of Mountain. That's a snow-covered mountain, so I can tell when I'm drawing it. 1 of Goblin Grenade, just so I can tell when I'm drawing that as well. Those I think are probably the flex slots in the deck. The mana base is 4 Great Furnace for artifact count, 4 Sandstone Needle just for that extra boost in mana, and then the rest are mountains with my 1 test mountain. The fast mana in the deck is 4 Rite of Flame, 4 Simian Spirit Guide, 4 Name Sticker Goblin. In paper, that would be the underscore Goblin, 4 Lotus Petal, and then we have for the 16 cards here, this is basically your Kuldotha package, which is 4 Synthesizer, 4 Tomb Raider, and then you have the Kuldotha Rebirth and Bushwhacker. What I love about this deck is that you have your speed with Goblin Bushwhacker, Kuldotha Rebirth, you can just jam, but you also have this emblem package of Crimson Fleet Commodore and Trailblazer's Torch. And what this does is it allows you to go over the top of blue decks, or even decks like Gardens. Decks that are trying to sweep the board, throwing in all of your Bushwhackers and Kuldotha Rebirths, you really don't have any recourse if something bad happens to you, if they wipe the table. But usually the decks that are trying to wipe the table also don't have creatures in play, so you just slam a Torch or a Crimson Fleet Commodore on turn 1, and then you don't really need to recoup your value with all of your Reckless Impulses and stuff. You just have onboard value happening. Then we have the 5 removal spells. This is really just like a finisher spell, but could just be some other removal spell. I think you'd probably want some instant speed one if you're going for that way. Maybe just like a Galvanic Blast here. But this is just to keep creatures from the opponent off the table. And then I kind of worked out in my head after playing this before how to sideboard. So I have my 5 removal spells, and that's mostly going to be my sideboard package along with a Singleton Mountain on the draw. So you can see we have 5 red blast effects, 4 cast into the fire. I tried using Smash to Smithereens, but it looks like Cast into the Fire might be slightly better just because we can take bridges off the table completely. And we're not really concerned specifically about damage, we just want to keep stuff off the table. Cast into the Fire also has the sneaky mode of 1 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures, so maybe that can be useful. We have 3 Flaring Pain for Strands decks because we really need that effect in hand, and I don't know if that 4 is the right amount, but I think 3 is pretty good. And 3 Fiery Cannonade. What's funny about this is it says 2 damage to each non-pirate creature. We've got Crimson Fleet Commodore, which is a pirate, and Goblin Tomb Raider, which is a pirate. So the idea here is that you're wiping their board, but not yours. So I kind of like that. That's pretty funny. All right, so let's go ahead and jam and get into the matches, see how it went. Make sure to stick around. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/kalikaiz. Once again, shout out to Rubens Nito for coming up with this deck. It's pretty fun, and I'm happy that I was able to just slam through a league. If you have any questions about how to play the deck, contact me on Discord or Twitter, and I'll see you there. All right, we're just going to run the play. So, round 1, we're on the draw. We open up hand that's pretty medium. We're going to mulligan it, and we're going to grab turn 2. We have Simian Spirit Guide plus Mountain, which allows us to play Commodore on turn 3, maybe. Let's see what happens. Our opponent leads on a tap land, Black Dragon Gate. We find a Rite of Flame, which means we have turn 2 Commodore. We go Candy Trail, scries top bottom, plays a Glinthawk. So now I have to remove the Glinthawk, so I end step bolt it, untap. We're going to go ahead and Rite of Flame, Simian Spirit Guide, Crimson Fleet Commodore, pass the turn. So now they Tithing Blade that away, but that's okay because we're getting a lot of value. We end up going Synthesizer, Synthesizer, and then just drawing a card, leaving Lightning Bolt in hand. We draw a Simian Spirit Guide. Our opponent plays a Cauldron Familiar, which we have the Lightning Bolt for. But the thing about Lightning Bolting the Familiar here is that they can sacrifice the Candy Trail and get back the Familiar. So we don't really want to do that here. Potentially when they attack, we can bolt it, or on their upkeep. We draw, play a land. And I decide to play out the Simian Spirit Guide here because this can block the Familiar, and then I don't necessarily have to use the Lightning Bolt. And I can save the bolt for a flyer creature. We draw a Simian Spirit, or a Name Sticker Goblin. They play a cat and decide not to attack. Obviously, I could just block it. I have 2 cards in hand. We draw a we have the Name Sticker Goblin in hand and draw a Bushwhacker. So we could just jam Sticker Goblin and then make a couple of tokens with the synthesizers. So that's what I'm going to try for. We roll an 18, so we get 6 mana, I think. Yeah, we crack the synthesizer, grabbing a furnace. So I'll just play that out, crack the synthesizer again. And we have these 2 creatures that are both have vigilance. So I could just Bushwhacker here. But I decided to just attack with my 2/2. They double block. So I'm going to use the removal spell to take out one of their creatures and keep my creature alive. They can bring both of them back, but at least like we're tempoing them a little bit. End step, draw a mountain. So having used that bolt, maybe that was the wrong play, because now we could bolt the Skyfisher and get it off the table. They bring the Sacred Cat back. I'm just going to Bushwhacker and attack, thinking that I could attack with all these 3/2s, and then if they block with the Skyfisher, it dies. They decide to block with the Skyfisher, which I think may have been a mistake for them, but that's okay. Works for me. And then we draw a Bushwhacker on our end step for the Monarch trigger. Play Tithing Blade, we're going to get rid of our 1/1. If they want to attack, we can just attack right back, but they decide to not attack. And here I draw the Kuldotha Rebirth, so I can just Rebirth Bushwhacker, attack for a very large amount. There's a Kuldotha, Bushwhacker, we slam in. They're going to block. They go to 4 life. We draw a card end step, draw a Synthesizer, and they decide to scoop it up. So it's post board. We are opening a hand that has Rite of Flame, Name Sticker Goblin, Tomb Raider. I'm going to keep this just because of the power level. We can put a lot of creatures on the table fast, but I'm just going to go for the Goblin right away and attack in. So this is kind of the aggro side of the deck. They play it, the Basilisk Gate, and then a Basilica, so they're not really making any advancements in their board state. They're just playing lands. So I decide here that what I can do is just put more creatures on the table and go the aggro plan. So I Rite of Flame into Sticker Goblin, into cast Simian Spirit Guide, attack. We've got 6 power on the table. It's a 3-turn clock. They Cauldron Familiar and play a Free Wind Falcon, which is flying and protection from red, 1/1. Now this I did not expect. Probably that I'm kind of kicking myself here because I did not actually bring in the Flaring Pains in this matchup, but that would have been a better plan. I actually had brought in 3 of the Fiery Cannonades. But I just go for the attacks and slam the Commodore and then hope for the best. We got to get some value. We got to add to the board. They kill my Commodore with a cast down and get in for 1, so now they have the Monarchy. But right now we're just trading back and forth, which is relatively fine for me as long as I keep drawing into action. They decide to block, which I'm not sure if that was a great plan because next turn they could have played another creature and then kept the Monarchy for a turn. We draw into a Synthesizer, and with the Rite of Flames in hand, we can Synthesizer and crack it. They draw, they Monarch, we're at 17 and they're at 11. We play the Synthesizer, finding a land, cracking the Synthesizer for another land. So now we have more creatures on the table, and we swing in, putting them to... Okay, they cast down my creature, so they go to 9. We draw a Name Sticker Goblin. Now our opponent is going to play Sacred Cat, Cauldron Familiar. This means they have a bunch of blockers. And I'm thinking, hey, this Fire Cannonade was not super great. So you can see here, now I'm showing my sideboarding. I ended up cutting a land, Lightning Bolt, and Goblin Grenade for 3 Fiery Cannonades, leaving the Flaring Pains, which was likely a mistake. Alright, back to the game. Cauldron Familiar enters the table. They are the Monarch. So the problem here is that none of my creatures are pirates, so I can't wipe the table and still attacking, taking the Monarchy. So I decided to just attack and see if they let me have it. And they end up just double blocking and then cast down in my creature. So I decide, since I'm going to Fiery Cannonade anyway, I'm going to do it right now. That way they don't gain the 1 life with the Sacred Cat, and who knows if that'll matter. So we slam the Fiery Cannonade, and post-board we can stick our Goblin into Cold Oath of Rebirth. So now we have attackers again. Obviously they're going to get their cat back. And then they gate up their Falcon and attack. They decide to play a second Basilica and pick up the Basilisk Gate. Now it's my turn. I've got the Tomb Raider. We attack for a large amount. They just block. I don't know why they blocked with that, because they could have gotten in with it later for life gain. But they decided they've had enough and scoop it up. Round 2, we're 1-0. We're on the draw. So we open a hand that has Tomb Raider on turn 1. And then there's the potential for the Commodore, depending on whether or not we draw mana. So I believe I'm going to keep this. Lots of good keeps here. I like having the extra land. Our opponent plays an island. We're going to go land Tomb Raider. Island, as soon as I see island, I'm thinking Spell Pierce. So usually person playing island like this is on a mono blue Delver. Delver Terror. Play second island. I find a Lotus Petal, which is great because I can turn my Tomb Raider into a 2/2. So play the Lotus Petal. And then I decide to play out the Synthesizer, see if they have Spell Pierce, and they don't do anything. We find a second Tomb Raider, which is a really big hit, so we just play it and attack. Now that's 4 damage a turn, which means that they have to try to turbo out a Terror just to get onto the table. Otherwise they're going to get beaten a ton. We play a Delver of Secrets. So next turn I can play out the Commodore, but I know they probably have some sort of interaction. We end up drawing the Rite of Flame, so I go for a Lightning Bolt on the Delver, try to take that off the table, just to see what they'll do. They counterspell the Lightning Bolt. So that allows me to go Rite of Flame into Commodore, and then start with the Monarchy. Meaning if they don't flip the Delver, we can block with the Commodore. Swing for 4, putting them to 12. They don't block now. They flip the Delver on a snap, so that's not great for me. They snap the Commodore. They swing in for 3. They're going to take back the Monarchy, and they play a Terror. So I'm feeling unconfident right now. But I rip another Goblin Tomb Raider, which is awesome, because I recognize here that if I play the Tomb Raider and Bushwhacker, we are putting them on a 2-turn clock, because I just Bushwhacker 2 turns in a row. Even though I'm sacrificing my Tomb Raider to the attacks. We play the Bushwhacker, they don't have a response. They Thought Scour us for some reason. We swing in for 8, putting them to 4. Draw a Great Furnace. Our opponent plays a Cryptic Serpent, gets in, takes the Monarchy back. Now it's our turn. We draw a Cold Oath of Rebirth. So I really don't want, right now I know that if I play the Bushwhacker and it doesn't get countered and they don't have any interaction, we win the game. So I'm going for the Cold Oath of Rebirth on the Synthesizer first. We go for that, find a Lightning Bolt. They Spell Pierce it, and I'm not going to pay, because now they can't counterspell my Bushwhacker, which would be GG. They go for Force Spike on the Bushwhacker, and we have the 1 to pay for it, and slam in, and we win. 2-0. Alright. Well, that wasn't 2-0. That was just game 1. So post-board, we have 4 bolts and 1 grenade out for 5 pyros. Pretty easy swap. Okay, so here we've opened a hand that has Rite of Flame Needle, which can make 3 mana. Got the Pyroblast and the Torch, and since we're on the draw, I decided to keep this. Any mana source would be really good. And I like the fact that we have the Pyroblast in hand to start, like, tempoing them. I mean, not tempoing, but to protect our emblem. They go Ponder Pass. We can play a land. We did not draw a land. Drew a Kadotha. 2 mana for our opponent. We find a Rite of Flame. So that's really awesome because we can Rite of Flame with Pyroblast backup. And then double Rite of Flame is exactly 4 mana to cast the Commodore or a Torch, depending on what's going on. But since I have Cold Oath of Rebirth in hand and they don't have a board, I feel like playing the Cold Oath of Rebirth on the Torch is probably the right play. So I go for 4 mana, play the Torch. They have no response. This gets us our next land. They just decide to cycle Lorien Revealed. They can't Hydroblast the Torch, which is another reason to maybe not play the Commodore here, because it'd have to have Spell Pierce or Counterspelled exactly. Okay, we take the initiative. We get a land. Boom. Play my sweet land. Cold out the Rebirth, the Torch. And now they are going to respond. With a Blue Blast, we have the Pyroblast. Awesome. So now we have 3 power on the table, and next turn if we forge it, it's 5 power and a 4-turn clock. We forge up the token, play a Petal, swing for 5. And it looks like they're sitting on interaction, so I'm just hanging out and beating them down, taking all of my initiative triggers that I can. We put them to 10 with the Thorn, or the Trap, get in for 5. You're at 5. We have a 1-turn clock. They play Thought Scour on us and concede the game. 2 free. Okay. New opponent. So we've opened up a hand that can play Torch on turn 3, which is not terrible. So I decided I'm going to keep it. We also have the Synthesizer and Bushwhacker. Feels fine. Play the Great Furnace. Our opponent's on Affinity. We can recognize by the Mistvault Bridge. And we find a Needle, which is awesome. Got the Torch on turn 3 for sure. They play a Limbus. We got double Torch now. So we just slam the Torch. And we find our Mountain. They play a Krark-Clan Shaman. So this is scary for me because now I only have 1 blocker here. I'd have to like waste my Synthesizer putting out a Synthesizer token. So we're going to Lost Well. I find Tomb Raider and a Needle. So I'll play out the Tomb Raider. I'll play the Torch first to go into Stash. And then I can hard cast both the Tomb Raider and the Goblin. And then I figured I'm just trying to advance myself in the initiative. And we're not attacking because we want to be able to block with them having the only 1 removal spell. They decide to Krark away just the Bushwhacker and then Reckoner's Bargain on... I guess, yeah, they sacrifice the Limbus to the Krark, and then Reckoner's Bargain the Krark. They draw some cards, go to 21. We have 1 attacker. They don't put down an attacker, so we now can just slam in. And here I'm like, okay, Commodore, do you have it? And they crack their Chromatic Star for blue and cast Counterspell. So this looks like maybe it's the Walker 735 list. Play Limbus. Still no creatures for our opponent. So we get to Thorn, and here I had a couple of choices. Let's go back to that. Okay, so our choices here are Namesticker Goblin, Bushwhacker, Tomb Raider, Simian Spirit Guide, and Crimson Fleet Commodore. We don't currently have the Monarch, and this will be an 8/5 trample, so I decided to take the Commodore. The other thing that you could take here is the Tomb Raider, because it would come in as a 5/5 hasty attacker, also very good. But I just feel like the Commodore, huge beater, get extra cards, that's really where I want to be. You can, if you take the Namesticker Goblin, right now when it comes into play, it actually will get mana, because it only doesn't make mana if you cast it from exile or it entered from your graveyard. I mean, if it entered from exile or your graveyard. If it enters from your library, that gets around the rules on Magic Online, which is kind of neat. So if you take the Monarchy, if you take the initiative during one of your main phases and you hit a Namesticker Goblin, you can use the mana. So we get the Monarch, play a Synthesizer, another Torch. So let's just slam another Torch. Moving through the initiative, and this we get a Mountain. I decided to play my Petal because I was thinking about putting the Torch on one of my creatures, but then I realized it wasn't really necessary for this turn, so we'll just pass. And, I mean, will we attack and F6 is what I'm trying to say. We didn't pass. People get mad at me for that. Okay, so we have a hexproof creature. They can't cast down it. They're playing some number of Galvanics. Maybe they're not even playing cast downs. Plays a Mere Enforcer. So in our hand, we have Bushwhacker. So I'm planning to Synthesizer for a 2/2 and then use the Bushwhacker and put the Torch on the 2/2 so that they can't profitably block it with the Mere Enforcer. Our opponent plays a Makeshift Munitions. We go Forge on the Commodore. That's basically like a removal check. Hey, do you have the cast down? They don't have it. Find a synthesizer off the top, ripping a Rite of Flame, which can help us crack the synthesizer. We find another synthesizer. We've got a 2/2. We'll play the synthesizer. We find a Goblin Tomb Raider. So now we are just chaining. And I play a land. We're going to torch up the Tomb Raider and attack. They can't block the Tomb Raider. They can't block the Commodore. They take a bunch of damage. They go to 9. So they play a Wellspring. I could probably take a hit from the creature anyway. So here I'm just trying to show that when the creature becomes blocked, it deals 2 damage to each creature blocking it. So that's why that creature would die. They decided to not attack. I'm going to trap them, putting them to 4. Decided to just go ahead and cast a Name Sticker Goblin. One thing I should have been worried about here is potential for them having Cannonade or Breath Weapon. So I think the better plan, instead of playing the Name Sticker Goblin, would just be to attach my 2 torches to my other 2 creatures and attack. But I just decided to cast a Name Sticker Goblin. They don't do anything. I crack a synthesizer. I'm just doing stuff. I really should have waited to the second main, but we're just kind of rubbing it in, I guess, and we win the game. So here I decided to cut the 4 bolts and the Goblin Grenade for the 4 cast into the fire and 1 singleton Pyro, which is hilarious because we find the Pyro. The pure rubbins. Okay. All right, this hand has turn 1 Tomb Raider. We also have Synthesizer, Kuldotha Rebirth, and we can cast Crimson Fleet Commodore on turn 3. We're keeping. Likely just lead on the Needle or land Tomb Raider, but we'll see what happens. We play Island or Seat Star. Now we have a turn 2 Commodore, so since we drew a Simian Spirit Guide, so I play the tap land so that I can have the option to Commodore on turn 2. They Deadly Dispute. And we rip a Name Sticker Goblin, which is absolutely ridiculous. So I decided to just go for it here and see if they have Hydroblast. Name Sticker Goblin resolves, no Hydroblast. We have 5 mana. Play a Synthesizer, see what I get. We just get a land. So I use my 4 mana for the Commodore, and then I can Simian Spirit Guide Tomb Raider. So just Simian Spirit Guide, Tomb Raider, attack you. You're at 18. We have the Monarchy. We draw the Torch. Now they play a Krark-Clan Shaman. So I know I have Kuldotha Rebirth in hand, which for that I'm going to just attack first and see if they use the Shaman. And they decide to crack using the Ichor Wellspring and a treasure token. Kills my board. So we go land into Trailblazer's Torch. So we're going to get a lot of value off the initiative now. So we have double emblem going, which is just ridiculous. They go Duress. Take my Kuldotha, I guess getting rid of my creatures. We initiative into Lostwell, Scry 2. We find Cast into the Fire and Mountain. So we know now that they're on Counterspell, so we have blue, and I decide to bottom the mountain, take the Cast into the Fire, and exile this Mistvault Bridge if they don't have a Hydro. They don't have a Hydro. We draw a Rite of Flame. They play another tap land. So we get Stash here. And then we can play Rite of Flame, Torch, and a tap land. We'll end up with a 4/1 creature. And next turn we get to hit the ultimate off the throne and get a creature off our library. We rip a Commodore off the top. Not sure. Okay, there's the Gearseeker Serpent. So it's a pretty good blocker, but my creature has Menace, so I can't block it right now. Undercity, and we see Tomb Raider, Sticker Goblin, Bushwhacker, and Simian Spirit Guide. I decided to take the Tomb Raider just for the hastiness. 5/5 hasty. Now we're going to crack the Kuldotha Rebirth on the Synthesizer. We find our singleton Pyroblast for the Gearseeker Serpent. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm definitely on a heater right now. And I also put the Torch on the Tomb Raider so that if they block, these creatures would trade. We Pyroblast the Gearseeker and the Reckoner's Bargain, going to 25. And we just put our Trailblazer's Torch on our other creature and swing out for 9. Draw a card. They play Blood Fountain. So they could get back the Gearseeker and the Krark with the Blood Fountain. So I decided to just not play out my Commodores. They're Deadly Disputing and playing lands, but no creatures. Our turn, we get a Mountain. Find a name sticker goblin. I just decided to test the waters with that. They decided to counterspell, which is fine. I don't need that. I'm gonna swing out. I'm trying to not add too much to the table for fear of the potential for a Clan Shaman. We put them to 4. They play a Mirror Enforcer, a Gear Seeker Serpent. Can't really do anything. We have the Undercity, and they scooped it up. Okay, so this is round 4 versus Alfonso 666666666. We have a turn 2 torch if we draw any mana source, so I'm keeping. All right. Land, go. Opponent plays an island, which is scary because, once again, I'm nervous about Spell Pierce. We find a needle, which is probably our best rip at this point. Play another island. Still nervous about it. I decided to go for Lotus Petal, Kuldotha Rebirth, the Petal, just to see what they're all about. I want to add to the table if they are Terror. They tap and untap their lands. So I figure if I Bushwhacker here and they have a counterspell, then next turn I can Torch. But they just Frantic Inventory, which makes me think this is Turbo Fog. We slam in for 8. They play Aristic Study, which if you're not familiar with it, it says whenever an opponent casts a spell, you can draw a card unless that player pays 1. But in hand, we have... They're tapped out. We can make 5 creatures with 2 power, putting them to 10, plus Bolt, you're dead. So we end up just going Bolt you, no pay. And then I Bushwhacker. I'm like, okay, I'll just pay. I'll pay the tax. You're dead. Boom. Okay. That's really funny. So now here we are going to bring in the Flaring Pains this time and 2 Pyroblasts. So I take out all 4 Lightning Bolts plus 1 Goblin Grenade for 3 Flaring Pains and 2 Pyros. All right, so we've opened a hand that has Pyroblasts and is somewhat explosive. I'm going to keep it. We're looking to draw into some emblems. They play a tap land. We will do the same thing. They play a land. I don't want to just try for the Name Sticker Goblin when they could potentially have the Hydroblast, but drawing the Synthesizer is great because then we can put 4 creatures on the table with the Bushwhacker and protect it with Pyroblasts. They play a desert and then a forest. We draw another tap land. So here I can tap for 4 mana, Sticker Goblin plus Pyroblast. They don't have the Pyroblast, so we go Goblin, we make 6 mana, Goblin again. We go up 8 mana, Synthesizer, find a land. I'm going to crack the Synthesizer. So we get another creature. And then I find a Simian Spirit Guide, so I have exactly enough to go Hardcast, Simian Spirit Guide plus Bushwhacker, so that's my plan. It does lose, I mean, it doesn't lose, but they could have Hydroblasted the Bushwhacker. They hadn't done anything before, so I just decided it was safe. They play a Tangle, stopping us from attacking. Growth Spiral with no land. Play a land, get into the Samurai token. Our opponent Frantic Inventories, does not find a land, and scoops it up. We win the game. 4-0, baby. Awesome. Okay, so now in round 5 versus Kid Renan, who likes to play Affinity things. We open a hand with 2 mana sources, but no lands, so this is not a keep. This hand has turn 2 Crimson Fleet Commodore Bushwhacker off the Sticker Goblin, so this is a definite keep. Question is, like, do I need this Lotus Petal? And if I play the Lotus Petal here, like, I would have to draw another mana source in order to crack it with the Kuldotha Rebirth. Maybe that was fine. If I hit 5 here, then I could Kuldotha. But I decided to put back the Kuldotha Rebirth here. Just feel like the Lotus Petal might have more value long term. They play a Razortide Bridge, so they're blue-white Affinity. We rip a Mountain, so we have exactly 3 mana, which I'm glad to have kept the Lotus Petal. So we get to go Name Sticker Goblin, Commodore, Bushwhacker, because we made 6 mana and attack you. That's hilarious. Swinging again. We are holding back a blocker, putting them to 2, and they're dead. So busted. Okay, so we are going to cut 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. and bring in the Cast into the Fires. But I'm maintaining a couple of lightning bolts to take their creatures off the table because I want to be able to remove the creatures so they don't get glittered up. And we have a really good hand here with a turn 2 sticker, Crimson Fleet Commodore, Bushwhacker. And our opponent mulligans to 6, 5, and 4 cards. Not looking good for them. They play a white land. We go Mountain Tomb Raider. Can't attack, but it's a body. They go turn 2, play a land, play Frogmite. So that means we're completely in the clear. We go land, Rite of Flame, sticker. And then here my question is, do I want to play the Torch or the Commodore? And given that they're on 2 cards, and this Commodore is a huge beater, I decided to go for Commodore Bushwhacker. I wish I could have done Commodore plus Torch, but I would just go for it. Slam in. And this is 16 damage on turn 2. You're at 4. We draw a card for turn. They play All That Glitters and scoop it up. It's pretty hilarious. 5-0, 10-0, baby. So this deck has really, really high ceiling. I'm not sure about the floor of it. I think that playing the extra land here is good. I tried 16 lands. It was medium. And if you are going to mess with this, these are probably the 2 flex slots in the deck. I don't see anything else being flexible. I tried a lot of different variations of this. I even tried playing like red-green with Avenging Hunter here. So this is like red-green turbo initiative, but none of it works quite as well as just slamming all of your Cold Oath stuff and winning the game. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I know replays are not everyone's favorite, but it was nice and quick, and we got to see some turn 2s. So thanks again for coming. We'll see you in the next video.